all across America and around the world. This is Veterans Radio. This is Veterans Radio.
Welcome to Veterans Radio. I am Jim Fausone. I'm the officer of the deck today. We've got some great programs for you. I think you'll find very interesting. We always want to remind you, you can find more about Veterans Radio at its Facebook site or at the web. Veteransradio.org is our new URL, veteransradio.org, where we're on the web 24/7. You can find a lot of our podcasts there as well. We post new ones every Tuesday, so you can get a new story, a new interview, something you didn't know before by going to veteransradio.org. And before we get started, we want to thank our sponsors. First up, we want to thank National Veteran Business Development Council, NVBDC.org. It was established to certify both service-disabled and veteran-owned businesses. You'll find out how they can help your business by going to NVBDC.org. We want to thank Legal Help for Veterans. Legal Help for Veterans fights for veterans' disability rights all across the nation. I am Jim Fausone, and this is Veterans Radio's Spotlight on the National Veteran Business Development Council, well known as NVBDC.org, and we're honored today to have with us its founder and CEO, Keith King. Welcome back, Keith, to Veterans Radio.
Well, thank you, Jim. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
Well, as our regular listeners know, NVBDC is the nation's leading third-party authority for certification of veteran-owned businesses, really of all sizes. And we're kind of talking today because it's about 10 years that this nonprofit that got started back in 2013 has been certifying companies. I think that's a great place to start, Keith. Give us a little, hey, what's going on after this decade of certifying veteran-owned businesses?
Well, whenever we talk to, obviously, a lot of businesses and small or any business that's been up and operating for a few years, the 10th year always seemed to be one of those, anniversaries that you should pause and say, hey, I not only made it 10 years, but we actually have been certifying our veteran-owned businesses for 10 years now. And, people have said, well, what have you done in 10 years? And that's one of these things that really what we're trying to do is put out some of the information I think is surprising to not only our veterans, but to our corporate members. And I know one of them is we went back into our files and we have actually certified over 3,000 veterans. So, we're there, we're pounding, and we continue to grow.
Well, and that level of certification has certainly also turned into a lot of contracts for certified veteran-owned businesses. And I know the $1 Billion Roundtable did some analysis, and there's some other analysis of how big the market is for certified veteran-owned businesses. And as I said, NVBDC is the gold standard for this. Give us some sense of how big the market is.
Well, I'll start with the one that probably is the closest to my heart in the sense of they being the BDR, did a impact study. And in that impact study, what they do, among all the other information they gather, is they have each of their members report the contract amount, what we call the spend, per category, women, minorities, veterans. And when they came out and said, well, the members of the $1 Billion Roundtable reported that they have spent $4.3 billion with our veteran-owned businesses. And we went, well, that's even bigger than I could dream. So.
And that's not over the 10-year period we're talking about, right? That's an annual
last
spend.
Year. Yes, that was last year, 23. And now that we're working with them even closer with all of these things, one of the side, if you will, the guys who love the numbers, we, in this impact study, said, does anybody know how much money is in the supplier diversity market, if you will, as a whole? And they actually said, yeah, it was a $122 billion market. And as you know, Jim, I keep talking about I want a bigger piece of this pie.
Yep. That's what our veteran business owners want. Absolutely.
Well, at 122 billion, I think I'm finally getting people's attention.
Well, I would hope so. And is that a corporate spend, or is that a government spend, or a combination?
No, neither. Strictly the 32 at the time was 27 corporation that spent that much with our veterans. And I know in the opening you mentioned, that we certify, small, medium, and large. And we have a corporation now that is over $2 billion, veteran-owned. We had one that was at a $900 million a year. We had 1,800 employees in 5 countries. So that was one of the issues, I think, right from the beginning, that our corporate members really drove home, really helped us. They said, don't ever get caught up in the small business. Everybody loves a small business, but if you're sitting here talking to, some of the largest corporations in the world, we need to make sure that if we're hiring somebody as a supplier, that they can, in fact, meet our demands, and do whatever they need to do to have the ability to, expand and meet our goals. And that's how we got to the point we are.
Well, and it's important because the government had some programs not very successful in ways of certifying, and they were for small business, veteran-owned businesses, and you kind of could grow out of them, which wasn't really good for anybody in the sequence. But that's sort of the problem with a government-run program. And last time we talked, the Congress was moving certification out of the hands of the VA and over to the SBA, but that really hasn't gotten up and running very well, has it?
Well, I hesitate only because...
Okay, I can say it hasn't.
Well, that's okay. What are they going to do? Can't fire me. What they did is they had, and I know we discussed that originally the plan was that the SBA was not going to, in essence, raid the VA, that they were going to go and build, the whole new team, build a whole new program. That was a lie. And unfortunately, in that form, they brought, and I spent a lot of time with these guys, they basically brought the key executives of the VA running the CVE, or their verification program, to the SBA. And I was like, well, what happened to you're not going to be allowed? Well, I guess, depending on your point of view, if you cry and whine enough, maybe somebody will say, yeah, okay, go ahead and hire them.
Yeah, they just took the easy way out rather than creating, and this is what the beauty of NVBDC is, it's really a rigorous certification process. You really got to prove yourself up. And then there's some comfort to the corporate America that this certification was rigorous enough to withstand scrutiny, isn't it?
Yeah, and, again, I always try to acknowledge the National Women's Group called WeBank and the National Minority Group, who were truly our mentors. I joke about it that, they said, yeah, we'll take pity on you. Come on, we'll teach you. But they did. And, that was like a 15-month process for us to learn what the rules are, learn why they do what they do, then write up the SOP and write up, the whole program, design it, and then implement it. And that's what we did basically 10 years ago in April. So, you know, it was just a few weeks ago, it would have been actually spot on 10 years. So we're always acknowledging and always thanking those groups for teaching us and for the corporations for accepting us, because I get these calls more often than not of, you know, somebody will ask me a question and I'll jump into it and they go, no, that's enough. Okay, we believe you. Okay.
Well, and that's really important, and that's why you should celebrate 10 years of success, because
Yep.
when you have that kind of rigorous standard and people say, well, that's the gold standard, we don't have to look any further, you get opportunities to do things and partner with other groups that have similar reputations. And you have one of those going on at the moment with the International Trade Association. Tell me what that's about.
Well, what we have been talking to them about is really how many, if you will, expats, how many patriots do we have all over the world? And a lot of the guys who got out of the military, and Germany is probably one of the ones, England definitely, Philippines, Guam, there are a lot of Americans living overseas running what they call a veteran-owned business. And our whole, you know, position is, really, how do you know they're veterans?
Right.
So, you know, the ITA said, you know, with the knowledge, and I think that's one of the things that we've been really proud of, is when you see the knowledge and you actually jump into what our veterans, well, soldiers, if you will, are being taught today. You know, I make the comment all the time, where do you think cybersecurity came from? You know, I mean, this is all military-based technologies, right? And so we have some very highly trained, very sophisticated people, you know, running businesses all over the world. And the ITA said, first off, we would love to know if they're really veterans. And secondly, you know, we'd love to work with you and see how many other people we have here stateside who would like, you know, to start looking at doing, you know, international trade. And they have, man, these guys got some incredible programs. And so, you know, what we said is, well, let's start putting programs together. Let's put webinars together. Let's put meetings together. We're involved with the UN weekly program. You know, besides the ones I've told you about, another group called Vets Go Global. So between the ITA, Vets Go Global, and the UN, we are definitely, you know, building it and trying to make sure that whatever we do, in the sense of going international, is we've got the main and the key players who will help us. So,
well, one of the things I want to do before we get into three other areas I want to talk about is I want to say to veteran-owned business owners who are listening, if you think certification is something that you ought to go on and do, go to NVBDC.org. They will help you through this process. It is important that you realize it'll be rigorous. You'll have to provide a lot of information, but that's exactly what you want coming out the other end, so that when you have work opportunities, bid opportunities with corporate America, they know you're the real deal. So go to nvbdc.org. That's the easiest way to get started, and reach out, because they'll help you get going.
Yeah, one of the things that, thank you for that, Jim. I appreciate it, because we have a certification team now, really, that are outstanding, that will just simply say, okay, what do you need? How can we help you? And they'll actually, like you said, they'll, you know, basically hold your hand and walk you through it. Because the thing is what we want to be able to do, and created this to help veterans. So, you know, our attitude isn't like, what's the matter with you? You can't do it yourself? No. Call us. We'll help you. You know, and that's the idea, that when we just got a, what I call a success letter. the gentleman was kind enough to say that because of his certification with us, in the last year he's got $200,000 worth of new business. And out of curiosity, because the way we're structured, anyone who's under $1 million in revenue only pays $350 to get certified. And I know I lose money on that deal, but it wasn't the smartest decision I ever made. But hey, so the reason I bring it up is I was joking with him. I said, "Wait a minute, you gave me $350, in exchange you got $200,000 back."
The essence of ROI.
What the hell, ROI is that? I said, listen, I'll give you $350 today if you give me $200,000 next year.
Well, that's one of the things that's unique about the certification and how NVBDC operates, and that is, it's not just about giving you a stamp at the end of the analysis. There's an ongoing effort to network, connect, help veteran-owned businesses get those opportunities. And in fact, you've got a couple of, annual events coming up, one in August of this year and one in October of this year. Tell us about your events and why you do them.
Well, we do them just basically, like you said, for the very purpose that when we've started this, one of the commitments that the corporations made to us was that they would, with their own supplier events, begin to invite our certified veterans to attend. And secondly, they would attend our events as long as we are guaranteeing that we'll have some of our certified veterans show up. And the number of corporations, as well as the names of these corporations, is sometimes startling because, you'll walk into a room with 50, 60, 80, 100 of our corporations, and you're looking at, the top 20 corporations in the world. And they're actually wanting to talk to you.
And these are the corporate members. These are the buyers of who want certified veteran-owned businesses. And I know some of the names. They're like Apple and Ford and, every big name you can think of, as well as much more, I guess I'd call it local, regional companies.
Well, and it is, we have all the high-tech guys, Apple and Amazon, and what I call the A-team. And then we have, the automotive teams. And, we have a lot of the financials, the banks, the insurance companies. It's really quite impressive.
Well, if you go to the website and click on corporate members, if you're trying to talk yourself into going through this process, just go look at the corporate members that scroll across the bottom. American Express, Kellogg's, American Family Insurance, Altera. I'm on the A-team, as you can tell by the scroll. It's really an impressive group in that 100 or plus corporate members who support what NVBDC is doing.
Well, thank you, because again, one of the things that we have focused on is the idea that, look, when we first were working to put this whole thing together, that's why the 10th has been so important to us, is when we sit down with these corporations and said, here's why our veterans should be supported. They said to us, point blank, create a certification program that meets our standard and we'll help you. Well, they have. And, that's the kind of message I'd like to get out, because I don't think a lot of the veterans who, I understand the skepticism, but when the skepticism, gets beyond what I call, real, like you said, all I got to do is look at my, website and see these names. You don't think I'm putting these names up there?
Oh, if you didn't have authorization, they'd be all over you. They're the biggest names in corporate America.
You know it.
I'm before we run out of time, because this happens to you and I all the time when we chat. We got too much to talk about in too little time. There's a program that I'm particularly interested in that I think veteran radio listeners would be, because we've been talking about military recruiting over the last year and the problems they're in. And it's easy to talk about the problem. It's nice to talk to somebody who's doing something about the problem. And that brings me to wanting to talk about NVBDC getting involved with junior ROTC. Tell us why and tell us about it.
The purpose was we were sitting around brainstorming about, hey, we're working very, very hard to reach the veterans, out of Afghanistan and Persian Gulf. But we have a whole other population that is going to be the leaders of this country in someday. And what can we do to help them and make sure that if we can help give them some financial support to go to college, stay in college, how can we make this work? And one of my board members said he would love, to be the director of the program, and that he had, the heart, he had the knowledge how to put a program like this together. All he needed was money.
And time.
And then it was like, oh my God. But thankfully, the program we put together, we never hit anybody really hard in the sense of the money, but it was give us enough to offer, the juniors, or primarily the seniors in high school who are going to college, a nice little scholarship that we can give them, every year that they're in the program, every year, 4 years in college. And that's what we did. That's what we've launched. What we've done is we built what we call a state manager portfolio, where we have literally gone around the country looking for veterans who may have a heart or an interest in helping these young, leaders of our military. And we have been very surprised and very pleased of the quality of the people who have said, we love this, man. No one's doing this, jump in, So we have our 50 state managers. We've already, I've been teasing my guys. I'm getting hand, cramps from writing checks. So, it's like, but yeah, when, I guess, gentlemen, I'll put it that way, in the sense of when you believe. And, we had an opportunity to say, let's see what we can do. And thankfully, my board said, well, we're not afraid to fail, which is, as you know, is always a big deal. Let's just do the best we can. And that program is now in its fourth, going into its fifth year.
Yeah, it's just an amazing program. Again, I'd encourage veterans, even if you're not a veteran-owned business and you don't need certification, maybe you want to help out NVBDC by looking at their junior ROTC program in the 50 states. It's a scholarship program. I'm sure you can donate to it. Go to nvbdc.org, and there's actually a specific site, nvbdcjrock.org, to get you right into this scholarship program. And we can talk about, hey, there's a problem in getting people interested in military service, but here's something you can do as a listener to get involved. Keith, this is a great program as always.
Thank you,
we appreciate the time that you give us here and the support that you give us here on Veterans Radio. Congratulations on a decade of fine work, and let's look forward to another decade of fine work.
Well, from your lips to God's ear, I hope I'm here another decade. But yeah, this has been a life, if you will. You wake up one morning, you got this idea, and everybody tells you, "Oh, you're crazy. What are you doing?" But 10 years later, I'm going, and we're still here. So
and you're not so crazy anymore, right?
Well, not as much as I was, apparently. So, thank you again, my friend.
You got it.
And I want to thank everybody for listening to Veterans Radio today. I am Jim Fausone. It's been a pleasure to be your host. I'm a veterans disability lawyer at Legal Help for Veterans, and you can reach us at 800-693-4800 or legalhelpforveterans.com on the web. You can follow Veterans Radio on Facebook and listen to its podcasts and internet radio shows
by visiting us at veteransradio.org. That's veteransradio.org.
And until next time, you are dismissed.
If you have a VA claim denied by the Board of Veterans Appeals, contact Legal Help for Veterans at 1-800-693-4800. They're experts in handling cases before the U.S. Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims. Their number again, 1-800-693-4800.
We again want to thank our national sponsors, the National Veterans Business Development Council, NVBDC.org, VA Ann Arbor Health Care System, the Vietnam Veterans of America Charles S. Kettles Chapter, Ann Arbor, Michigan, VFW Graf O'Hara Post 423 in Ann Arbor, and the American Legion Press Corn Post 46, also in Ann Arbor. We appreciate all your support. You can go to veteransradio.net, click on the sponsor level, and continue to support keeping Veterans Radio on the air. And until next time, you are dismissed.